Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Jo Barker, and I am an engineer for Yakima County Water Resources. And I am joined here today with my boss, Troy Havens. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our surfboard grant project, which is Blue Slough Causeway Removal. So, what is it that we hope to do with this project, and what needs to be done? Yakima County and the Army Corps of Engineers, let me adjust myself. Yakima County and the Army Corps of Engineers are replacing the head gate for the newly constructed pilot channel north of Blue Slough to provide consistent flow to an area that has not experienced flow for a long time. By removing the causeways and non-functioning culverts present in Blue Slough, this reach will connect gap to Yakima Nation's project at Frog's Home, integrating projects upstream and downstream. Our project goals are to restore historic floodplain use, to provide consistent flow through the side channels, and to increase suitable habitat for salmonids during migration. The floodplain restoration will reduce the severity of flood events and help maintain consistent flow through the side channel year-round, making Blue Slough a more suitable migratory habitat for spawning salmons on their way to their spawning grounds. So where is our project? Our project is located in Yakima, Washington. It is a side channel of the Yakima River, and it is located east of I-82. So what I have the arrow pointing towards on the image is about like the middle section of Blue Slough. And how does Blue Slough fit in to Gap? So Blue Slough is a portion of the larger Gap project that seeks to restore floodplain connectivity through side channels and levee setbacks. This project contributes directly to Tag Focus Project number 7 by restoring main stem and side channel habitats between Union Gap to Sela Gap. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the image we have on the right. So as you can see, the red lines are the federal levees. The dotted blue line is the length of Blue Slough, and the orange line is where the levee setback is going to be. So what I have in the light green rectangle is where this specific causeway removal project is in relation to Blue Slough and our Gap project. And then immediately south of our project area, we have Frog's Home, which is a project by Yakima Nation, and it seeks to restore the landscape and its resources, increase aquatic habitat and complexity and quality, and also restore floodplain connectivity. So Blue Slough is going to be a really important connecting piece between these two other projects. And then I also, let me see, the Blue Slough headgate replacement is all the way at the top of the blue line, kind of located in the middle of the screen. So our goal for this project is to remove most of the 12 causeways that are currently present at the site. If you look at the image on the right, all of the causeways at the site are the red dots. And our goal is to keep 1 or 2 causeways at the site to maintain site access throughout the property. And for the causeways that we do want to keep, we want to upgrade or install larger culverts in order to maintain flow and fish passage. So I also have at the bottom left portion of the slide, I zoomed in to 2 of the causeways that are currently at the site. So you can see that they are essentially little land bridges that create portions of sheet water throughout Blue Slough, and they prevent Blue Slough from getting that consistent flow. Some causeways have non-functioning culverts, so we'd like to remove most of these. Have some pictures of the site. So the picture on the left, we have the United States Bureau of Reclamation property with Blue Slough visible on the right-hand side. And you can see the portion of sheet water that I was talking about in my last slide, and that picture was taken in November 2020. And on the right, we have Sportsman Park Island. It was taken in 2022, and water bodies, which are pools of water, and the flow only exists during the 5-year or larger flood events. So our project seeks to restore year-round flow. So what fish are going to benefit exactly from this project? The fish that are going to benefit are fall and spring Chinook, summer steelhead, and coho. All of these fish are anadromous species, and they utilize Blue Slough for the same portions of their life cycles. So spawning adults pass through Blue Slough on their way upstream to their spawning grounds, and then smolt will pass back through Blue Slough on their way to the Pacific Ocean. And then for my pictures, in the upper left-hand corner, I have a picture of a steelhead, and then next to that, coho, and beneath that, a Chinook, and I think he looks pretty cute. So how does our project fit into the steelhead recovery plan? Our project utilizes the habitats, some of the habitat strategies that have been explicitly stated, like restoring floodplain connectivity and function and improving flow conditions. The causeway removal of Blue Slough seeks to restore historic floodplains, increasing the amount of suitable habitat for migrating fish. They will have more access to regions of the Yakima River with shade and riparian vegetation. So what are the limiting factors that make it difficult for salmonids in the Yakima River? So one of the big issues that affects these fish is temperature. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with how hot Yakima can get during the summer, right? It's uncomfortable for us. It's not super comfortable for the fish. So they're extremely sensitive to warm water, and increasing their access to shaded habitat will directly increase their odds of successfully migrating through the Yakima River. And then the next two limiting factors, they're closely related, but I decided to split them up. So right now in Blue Slough, there's inconsistent year-round flow. So Blue Slough is a region that doesn't necessarily even have flow year-round, and removing causeways and installing larger culverts are going to ensure that the habitat remains consistent and we can have water passing through it. And the next issue that these fish are facing is insufficiently connected migratory corridors. If you recall earlier, when I zoomed in on that picture of the causeways that are currently at Blue Slough, the water would essentially have to rise and overtop those causeways in order for fish to make it through. And so right now, the fish are dealing with a large entrapment issue. So we don't have a lot of project obstacles. We actually have one major one, and that is federal uncertainty. So the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation owns all of the land that this project is set to take place on, but with everything that's going on right now, it's not super clear what our path moving forward is going to look like. The Bureau has expressed great enthusiasm for this project, but their capacity to be involved is limited due to increased workloads of the remaining staff members due to federal layoffs. So we're not sure exactly what our working relationship is going to look like going forward, but we are optimistic. Now, let's talk about budget. So how are we going to spend the money that we're requesting for this project? We're requesting approximately $113,000. We plan on using the money to perform a wetland delineation so we can understand what, if any, mitigation strategies will be needed to be taken given the change in hydrology due to the surrounding wetlands. And then we would move on to performing a cultural resources survey. And cultural resources survey is really important, especially since Blue Slough is directly north of Yakima Nation's Frog's Home site, which is a culturally significant area to Yakima Nation. And then what we want to do next is hire a consulting firm to develop some alternatives. As I mentioned earlier, we want to remove most of the causeways in Blue Slough and keep one or two. We don't know which ones we want to keep or remove, and having a consultant perform different analyses based on, keeping or removing certain causeways and installing culverts in the remaining causeways is going to be helpful for making the next steps, for deciding the next steps. And then lastly, we are budgeting money towards staff time. So time Yakima County staff will devote towards working on this project. Okay, that is the end of my presentation. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
I get a question, Mary Jo. I was just curious, how the head gate works at the top end. Did I understand that correctly? Or is water flow into Blue Slough be controlled by a head gate?
Yeah, so I think that would be a question Troy would be able to answer, but the Army Corps of Engineers is replacing the head gate at Blue Slough.
Yeah, I'll put on my fish biologist hat. I'd just be, an FYI is to make sure it can pass little fish, both directions. My history in the basin says that these off-channel habitats get used more effectively when water can move through them, and so fish can get entrained. If they're coming downstream, get entrained in the Blue Slough, and if they want to, keep on going through, they can, and of course coming up from the bottom too. So considerations on that head gate.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for that comment. The way that's designed is it's going to kind of have a pool at the downstream set, so it's not going to send water at high velocity through the culvert that's through the levee. They should be able to pass upstream and down.
In the chat, Davy wrote that she would recommend adding lamprey tier list since they require the same spawning parameters, and perhaps freshwater mussels as well, as they are found in the mid-Yakima, and there's an ongoing tagged mussel monitoring study going on in Sunnyside Diversion and the main stem located just downstream.
That's a really great comment, and you guys can't see it, but on my end, I have a notepad and I'm writing down your questions, and I added that comment to that. So yeah, thank you for adding for the lamprey and fresh water mussel suggestion.
At least parts of this project are on the footprint of the gap-to-gap dikes. setback. How much wetland delineation and cultural resources survey has already been done for portions of Blue Slough, or none at all, or?
Yeah, that's probably another Troy question. I moved us back to where this causeway removal portion is, like, in relation to Blue Slough. As we can see, Blue Slough does extend, north past where we plan to remove the causeways. As my understanding is that in the southern section of Blue Slough, we have not done wetland delineation or any cultural resources, but Troy can probably talk more about the northern portion of Blue Slough.
Yeah, so that's what really makes this whole thing possible, is this levee setback. So not only will you get water coming from the Blue Slough headgate, but then also when larger flows come through, they'll actually come from the Yakima River, because now we have this setback levee. But to answer your question, the cultural and wetland was really limited to the Army Corps' project footprint. So nothing really beyond that construction work zone, or maybe even a tiny buffer beyond that work zone.
Anybody else?
Yeah, what was the purpose of the causeways? Are they crossings or diversions, and how
Yeah.
does water pass through them now?
Okay, so let me go to this slide. So if you look at where the green arrows are pointing, yeah, their primary purpose is to provide accessibility throughout the site, so you can kind of get from one side of Blue Slough to the other. Some causeways have small culverts that are not conducive to, or don't really accommodate, larger flows or fish passage, and usually, and not every causeway has a culvert in it, so that's why we have these portions of sheet water, or when I went out there, I would call, like, prime duck habitat, very still. So just to visually, like, explain what's going on at the site. But yeah, not all causeways have culverts. Some do, and they don't work very well. And because of these causeways, there's no consistent flow. So you'd have to wait till, water would flow over the top of the causeways. And they exist to provide access to different parts of the site.
Thanks.
Mark commented that he may have at least partial delineation coverage between 24 and Turtle Lake, if helpful.
Very helpful.
Thanks,
Always helpful.
Is there much of a homeless camp presence in that area?
Good question. Last time I went out to the site was in on Christmas Eve, so that was so awesome. When I went out there, I didn't see anything. However, yeah, so that are in gap to gap that the Army Corps of Engineers is dealing with. We actually
Mary
just
Jo,
being today.
You
our
cut out after you
code
said
enforcement guy. Yeah. I'm sorry. Say that one more time, Shane.
After you said, however, it got really choppy.
Oh, okay. Let me
I can hop
Okay.
in. I can hop in
yeah,
here.
go ahead.
Yeah, so like Mary Jo was saying, she really didn't see anything down there on the Bureau property. The encampments are largely focused northward around Highway 24 and up where you see the Blue Slough Causeways title block there. But our county code enforcement, at least on county land, has done a wonderful job cleaning up and enforcing the code there. So it's, in my opinion, it's better than it's been in a long time. You know, we haven't seen anything in the project area.
I'm trying to remember, there's a chunk of Blue Slough right above the Frog's Home property.
Yeah.
That's not owned by the Bureau, right? Is that still Union Farms, the duck, use it, I think, mainly as a duck club? Have you talked to that? Do you know if there are barriers on that stretch of Blue Slough, and would they be part of the assessment? Just because it'd be really great to address anything on the private stretch as well as the public.
We
Right.
have not engaged them at this point, but we may need to very soon regarding the gap to gap projects in terms of the core. So we're waiting to see what happens there. Either way, I think it's a good idea, whether it's needed as part of the core's efforts or these efforts.
Okay. Any final questions? All right. Thank you much, both of you.
Okay, thank you all
Thanks,
for being such a
everyone.
wonderful audience.